Most software engineers think that their role in a company or in an organization is to write code. This is not your role. Your role is to solve problems. Hi everybody, my name is Chris Lafra. I grew up in the Netherlands. I'm a computer scientist. I've worked at Uber, IBM and Google, but I also worked at finance at Bank of America and JP Morgan. I've always developed software. I'm very interested in how do we develop software as a team, which means that we have to be more productive as an individual, but also productive as an organization. So when I did my computer science degree, which is quite a while ago here in Amsterdam, most of the topics were very technical, but very few skills were taught to us about how do you develop software as a team. When you run into somebody who has a different opinion, you have a conflict, how do you resolve that? How do you recognize that? How do you grow as an engineer? All those skills are not taught in school, and you have to pick them up at work. And that's not often structured well. I really miss that in my education. And I think if you do something like a PhD, then you get a little bit more training, because now you have to do presentations at conferences, you write a thesis or a big document. So you get a lot of structure there, but I think in general we could do a lot better in helping engineers become better communicators. Everybody needs help in communicating. I need help becoming better communicator. So it's not easily said oh, you should communicate better. What's wrong with my communication? That's very hard for most individuals to do a self-evaluation and figure out that they're bad at something. So you need to get help. Ask other people, can you help me review my presentation and tell me honestly what is wrong with that? And this is hard too, right? You ask for feedback and what they're going to tell you will hurt. And this is something, another skill that you have to learn is how do you get feedback from other people and how do you incorporate that feedback and actually become better at something. This is for technical stuff, but also for every other things that you do. Like how do you run a meeting? How do you do presentations? How do you handle conflicts? How do you do good code reviews? These are all topics that you can learn from other people. So find a mentor in your company, in your organization. Go to training on this specifically. The team around you should support you at this already. And a major part of our work is communication. I'll give you an example. I used to work at Google, and there we did some research on what makes a software engineer productive. So we cannot measure it. It's very hard to say software developer A is more productive than software developer B. So what we do is we ask them, are you happy? Because we think a happy engineer is a productive engineer. So that is a better measurement. You can ask somebody on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you? And they will say 1, 2, 5. Now that we know that they're happy, we can look at their behavior or the things they did right before that. So if you monitor engineers, which we did at that project, we found out that only 20 to 30% of the time they work on writing code. So this is for all Google engineers. 20-30% is actually contributing code, even though that's your job, right? So you think that that's the most important thing that you do, but it's not. The 70% of your time you actually talk to other people, you work with other people in your team, you talk to the product manager, you meet with customers, you do team building exercises. So all these things are way more important for your effectiveness, your impact, your recognition, your success, your productivity. So there is active research into what makes people more productive and how to become more productive. So if you know that knowledge, go focus on your communication skills. It will pay off. It will make you more productive. It will make you more effective. People will recognize you. Nobody will go with your results and become famous of your work. You will get the recognition. You will get impact. So you have to defend yourself and you have to become a better communicator. And it will pay off. It will make you happy. So do that. Learn how to communicate. So communication is often cultural. I did my PhD. I grew up in Europe, in the Netherlands. And I remember going to conferences in the US, and then we had workshops, and you meet other people working on the same thing as you, and you want to find out and defend your work. And we could never beat the Americans. Like they come in and they're loud and they take the stage and they get training in this somehow, I don't know. So they get all the attention. And as a beginner, you sit there and you don't know how to do this. This is a known cultural problem. At Google, for instance, to get promoted, you have to write a document that describes what all your contributions are. So this means you have to brag about yourself. And Europeans tend to be humble. And I remember going to Germany to the Munich office in Google and talking to a director there. And he said like, oh yeah, we have a special document for Germans that want to get promoted. And it's called How to Talk Like an American. So rather than saying like, the things I did this year were quite impressive because I did this and this. No, it's like, this was the most amazing stuff that was ever delivered. And so you gotta like exaggerate everything and go on stage, be an actor. And this is something that is in some cultures more encouraged than in others. But also in certain companies, it's different. So be aware of that. Over time, everybody learns from mistakes, I hope. So the more experienced you are, the more disappointments you've had, the more defensive you will be. So learn from people that have made these mistakes before. So go talk to somebody, become friends. How do I become a friend? Give them compliments. Oh, nice shirt. No, it has to be substantial compliments. Like, I really like your contribution from last week because it will make our product twice as fast and this is great and great team effort, right? So those are good compliments and now all of a sudden that person likes you and the next time there's an opportunity they will ask you to work with them. And so building friendships, getting meaningful relationships, those go across cultures. And you can learn from people with more experience, you can learn from people with other cultural backgrounds. So there's many sources of information that you can combine there. But of course there is a difference between communication gaps between ages. Like younger people are on Instagram, middle-aged they're on Facebook, and then older are on LinkedIn, whatever, right? So these groups may not communicate with each other as much because of that segmentation. People have an innate feeling for being close to people that are like them. It's hard to break that. So you have to be aware of these kinds of barriers for communication as well. Most people think that they cannot talk to somebody who is in a senior position. But what I like in the most successful companies, when an SVP, for instance, visited, they come in from San Francisco and they visit Amsterdam and they walk around. Find out when they're arriving, get a meeting with them, have a coffee, have lunch with them, because you can learn so much from their perspective and from their guidance. And don't think that because they're an SVP and they're 7 layers above you that you cannot talk to them. There is no inhibition there, unless you're in a really structured organization, but then you should leave and go somewhere else. So there's a lot of forms of communication. There are many channels in which we can communicate as a team or as an organization. A lot of them are asynchronous. We communicate through our code. Like the code that you write is read by other people. So this is an opportunity for you to communicate with other people. The clearer your code is, the more they will like your code and be able to fix it. So this is one form of communication. It's very low level and technical. But you write documents about the code, like you have to write like a design doc that explains why we're building something and what the trade-offs are. So there's a difference between synchronous and asynchronous, and the critical point in communication is when you have a meeting. So meetings are synchronous by nature, and they're the biggest impact on productivity for engineers. So the reason for that is, like in that research that I mentioned earlier at Google, we measured 30% of the time you do coding. What we also measured is when we asked people when they're happy, they were unhappy when they came out of meetings. This is in general. If you ask engineers on any floor and you ask like, do you like meetings? No, I don't want it. So now if you dive deeper and you ask like, why do you hate meetings? So what's wrong with them? Oh, the meetings are okay. I was just like trying to solve this problem and it takes like half an hour to get there. And I built this up and now I'm in the zone and then boom, I have to get out. There's a meeting. I lose my productivity because of the fragmentation of the time and the context switches that I have to do. So the kind of channels that you choose for your communication are really important for the productivity of the entire organization. So the more synchronous communication there is, the less opportunity you have for being productive, because you have to become creative. You have to get into the flow, into the zone, to solve all these complex problems that we're trying to solve. So the tip that I will give you if you want to get more productive as a software developer is try and make more of your communication asynchronous. The fewer meetings you can go to, the better. So it's hard to change the culture, but you have to do this. And start small. Put blocks in your agenda, in your calendar that say like, do not block, 3 hours, 4 hours. Tell people that you're most productive when you want to solve something in the afternoon, and don't book anything in the afternoon with me. So you can train the people around you to ensure that you're the most productive person ever by using the right communication channels. Most software engineers think that their role in a company or in an organization is to write code. This is not your role. Your role is to solve problems. So to understand what the problems are that need to be solved and prioritize them and do the right ones, you have to act and think like a product manager or product owner. And to become that, you have to develop skills so that you can talk to people, develop relationships with individuals, meaningful relationships. That will empower you to think about the problem and solve business-related challenges rather than focus on deep skills that have to do with Kubernetes and Java. And these skills are important because in the end you have to write code, but think about why are we writing the code. And for that you have to develop empathy, you have to develop communication skills, you have to be able to sell yourself, sell ideas, collaborate with other people, resolve conflicts. So invest in your communication skills will definitely help you become more successful and impactful and happy.